Hey guys. So I'm in the bathtub with my Kimber today, and I just thought that I talk about college. Yeah, college. You know, they say there's no better time in every American's life than college. The college is it's true like that all around the world. College is the last playground before the atlas like burden of adulthood. Anyway, college. So anyway, I'm gonna tell you like one story there because I think these stories could someday help others. So they didn't like me in my college. I mean, as usual, they thought I had great potential and I thought that I was awesome, but there was just something just insidiously recalcitrant about me that no one could ever overcome, and so I thus deserved every expulsion and exclusion and denial that I could possibly be given, basically. Whatever. But anyway, so let me just talk about this. This is so much fun. Okay, so we had a student named George. Okay, George was only about like 5'8", but very slender. But he was one of those beautiful people that, like for example, in the gym when he took his shirt off, exquisite. Just perfect. Never lifted a weight in his life. But he looked like a Greek god or something. He had like blonde hair and blue eyes and just that kind of face. And so, he was he was from Orange County. Okay, so to say he was entitled is sort of like like what Trump was less entitled. Okay, in many ways, or at least the entitlement was way more worn smooth with time with Trump. But he was very entitled. Okay, and no one had a problem with that. Not that I could tell. I mean, one time Coach Ellis, had him actually work out for just for like 10 minutes. Actually had him like really lifting weights and everything, and longer than I would work out there for like an hour and a half sometimes every day, for a while. But and he said, "Oh, it's sore, it hurts," and he rubbed it. Oh, and he never came back. Anyway, so that was George, and so anyway, I lived in the dorms. There were these great dorms, but the only drawback to living at the dorms at this place was the Gestapo Nazi res life people who were all there to save your life, and if they couldn't, God help you. And you know, they didn't like me. I mean, I never did anything to them. I'm gonna give you examples. I got, there's this, I got fined for I got fined for asking to change my checkout time once because another job on campus happened to start at that time and I had to be there, so I couldn't check out and keep the job, which was going to give a tour for, the campus, to prospective students. And I got fined for doing that by the residential life people. They didn't like me. The head person there didn't like me. I don't know, whatever, but and there's always other sides, and I can't tell there sometime. Anyway, so there we were, and they didn't like me very much. I mean, to give you an idea, there were a lot of Buddhists at this college, and they all burned incense, and you're not supposed to do anything like that because it could trigger the sprinklers and stuff. But it was never a problem. And one day I either burned that or maybe someone came over and we did a little something slightly illicit there, but harmless as today and all that or something. And it was ancient history the night before, and so I was at class at 8:30 a.m. the next morning. When I came back, there's a note from Res Life. One of the Res Life people had taken it upon themselves to go into my room, my locked room, and rifle through my belongings because there was a smell of something burning. You just come in and like, what the... some chick. And, I was like, what the... or you're not supposed to have anything outside your doors, like welcome mats or anything. And so I was sharing a room with someone else, and they're double rooms, okay? And everyone else had little things out, like little shoes, all the, students had, a lot of students had their shoes out, and all these, And my roommate, left out a plant to get some sun from the window nearby. We immediately had a notice there say, okay, so, it was there was some sort of a singled out for me, and, but George one day, when he was in a rush to check out and go off to the Bahamas with his family, took all of his stuff and just tossed it into the hallway and left his room bare, didn't clean it, and left. Whatever, okay. Very USC-ish, but I didn't know about USC back then. And so anyway, and they wouldn't let him do that at USC. Anyway, so then, like, in a matter of speaking. So he does that, and, like, you go out there and, like, you're going every time. It's right at the main entrance. He had a ground floor room right by the elevator in the main entrance, so you had to step over all his trash to get anywhere in the building. No res life, anything. No one had any notices on his door. This went on for 2 weeks, okay? And we were going to be there for 4 or 5 over the summer, and nothing was happening. No one's doing, just, whatever. I mean, there weren't as many people there because of summer, but there were people there. So finally, one day, in a fit of pique, and this is where we get to the fun parts. I cleaned up his stuff. Okay, I took all the books, and I put them in the bookshelf, room, the communal bookshelf in one of the dormitory living room areas, common areas. Took his clothes and threw them out. Took all his DVDs and watched some, threw some out. Let's see, I took all his, just a lot of miscellaneous shit. And what I thought was cool, I kept, and the rest I threw out. Except I found one folder that had all his tax information, his social security number, his parents' social security number, his parents' bank account numbers, and his, and all the rest, all sorts of other shit, like, school documents, passport documents, all sorts of shit. I put a rubber band around those and placed them carefully in a drawer in my dorm room where I left them undisturbed and never looked at them. And before I did all this is the best part. I went to one of the clueless res life people. She's one who said, "Hey, I'm gonna go and like clean and organize this a little bit. Is that all right?" And clean, And I don't know. She said, "Okay." So I did. And so I took care of all that, and it was perfectly clean after that. You could never know anything had ever been there. And so then I go on with my life. Okay. So about, the next semester rolls around, and I get a call on my little voicemail thing, because we all had voicemail at this school. Our own phones and everything. And, it's from Res Life saying, what did you do? We were wondering what happened with George's stuff. I said, well, I rearranged it. And then I just left it at that. So then a few days more go by, and, semester's picking up or whatever, and I get a little, knock on the door. It's George! Hi, George. And he says, I'm David. I need my stuff. I said, you do? Hold on a moment. So I shut the door, I go in, I open the drawer, I take out the folder of all this life-critical information, and I go out and I hand it to him. Here you go. And he says, oh, thanks. And I shut the door. So about 10 minutes go by, and then there's a... I open the door. Hi, George! And he says, where's the rest of it? I said, well, the rest of it's been assimilated. And he goes, what? I said, it's been assimilated. What does that mean? He says, I don't know what the fuck it is all anymore. It's been a long time now, man. And he's like, whoa. And so then, I said, well, anyway, come by later, and shut the door. I never talked. That was the only conversation I think I ever had with him. And so anyway, so then one time I'm walking, so after a few days after that, I'm walking down the path toward class, and he's standing there, and he says, you've totally fucked me, man. I can't believe you did this shit to me. You totally fucked me. I said, I didn't do anything to you. You left your shit out in the hallway, and it got cleaned up. What the fuck, man? And he gets all, like righteous and hurt and all, whatever. I said, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Where's the little, I didn't get into it. What the fuck? Every time I could close my eyes, there's a yellow notice on my door, and here he's crying to me. And it's like, this whole school can go fuck itself. And that was really hurtful for me, because I believed in that school. It was just every day, it was like torture, And so anyway, it was like, God, anyway. So so he says, I'm going to report you to Res Life. I said, okay. So he reports me to Res Life. ends up goes there, has a long talk with like the head person there, whose name, well, I won't say her name because she really hated me, man. Okay, but anyway, and so I'm like, I'm working as a PR person in this office in, the main hall for greeting people, from the public at the campus, when this head of Res Life comes down, makes a beeline to me, and says in this very loud voice that everyone can hear, "David, you're a thief." I said, "Huh?" And I said, "You're a thief, and I think that you are going to come at 2 p.m. and you're going to give an accounting for yourself, and this time we're going to make it really stick." I go, "Can you keep your voice then?" "No, you're a thief, and it's time everyone knew it." So then she goes away. So I go, holy shit, right? So then, like, what I do, as soon as I get out of there, I go running off to my laptop, and we're supposed to be doing a bunch of other stuff, fuck that, and I write a 21-page complaint about this woman, itemizing every single thing she's ever done to me, and there are quite a fucking few, all right, that she had managed to do. Okay, and I'm a journalist, so I'm used to writing by deadline. I'm used to making accounting for facts, and this was actually not a strict, but I just read it over again, and went and right like 1:43 or whatever the frick it was, went running into human resources and say, "I have a complaint to file about Michelle Hobby. She's harassing me. She's screaming and reading me out in public when I'm trying to introduce students to our campus," which is true. And so, so then I sent an email to Michelle saying, "Michelle, I can't come and see you at 2 as per the complaint I just filed with you at Human Resources." So the next day, I get an email from the dean of students, who also, as you may have guessed, hated my guts. And, by the way, I never did anything. Okay, I mean, I wasn't getting into fights like other students. I wasn't carving china into the elevator wall plate or anything. I never did a damn thing over that place, except talk. So anyway, like, it says, "And now I have to go talk with the dean of students." Well, I know he hates my guts, and by then, I'm quite familiar with what he's going to say. So I wrote another 2-3-page document and filed a complaint on him with Human Resources, so I wouldn't have to talk with him, because I knew he was going to be a shit. It wasn't going to be fair, and wasn't going to listen. I'd already tried in the past. He made it very clear. So anyway, so that put like a wrench in things. So then they got my guidance counselor to come talk with me. The guy who, you have to he was your counselor, so you had to talk with him. And it wasn't a counselor, but literally every student there had to talk about their classes that they were going to take every semester and have them approved by their academic counselor, so they can make sure that you weren't, I don't know what. So anyway, they have, my old good old counselor come talk to me, and when I go to see him about this, he's there with his 5-year-old kid who's just sitting there, cute as a button. And so then he starts talking to me, and first it's like, "How are you doing with this, and how is your school this, and how is your school this," and I've come to my intention that there may be some friction between you and Res Life right now. I said, "Yeah, there does seem this, well, it's not, there's been friction for a while, but it does seem like there's slightly more now." And, he says, like, "Well, David, stealing is never right." I said, "I didn't steal." He says, "Yes, but I know, but even if you're going to deny it, in your heart that stealing is never right." And so this went back and forth like about 6 times until, I don't know, I just became so fucking angry at him that without, I didn't plan this. I started to say, "I didn't steal it. His stuff was abandoned in the middle of your damn residential life hall, and no one did anything about it." So he just completely shut up at that point, and his 5-year-old kid doesn't break into tears, doesn't cry. He just looks at me with this, like, ageless gaze and doesn't say or react at all. So we sat there in silence for a few minutes, and then I got up and left. And so then Human Resources a few days later sends me a notice saying that, it would be if you want to really press forward on this complaint, then I guess you're going to need to come in, and we're going to have to talk about it in a conference with human resources and the dean of faculty. But we're not inviting the head of Res Life because she's very busy. And so anyway, so I think this is great, okay, right? So then I get ready to go. As I'm going to the camp, I don't know how to exactly to put this, okay? So I'm going to try to explain this in a narrative form, but as I'm going there, I see, like, the head of human resources and the dean of students, and they're talking to each other. And it's suddenly that's when it hits you to know we're not here to discuss potential wrongs. We're here to discuss what the fuck to do with me, okay? And it was like, shit. And what's more is they look like they mean business. They got folders, they got suits. The team of students was full war suit, suit, tie, blue collar, everything, just the whole 9 yards, okay? And you realize, holy shit, right? So it's like, you're gonna get reamed in there, And so I'm like, fuck. So I didn't know what to do, but then I remembered my journalistic instincts. So I went back to my dorm room. I got my journalistic tape recorder, and I got my PDA, my HX4700 from HP. God, I love that thing. I sold that thing for something like, still sold it for like $100 over 12 years later after buying it, man. That was how awesome that thing was. But anyway, it was like 700 originally, and so anyway, I got that, and, I ran in there, I went in there, and I sit down, and they sit down, and they're just looking at me. They closed the door, they it's like, and if they had to lock, they would probably locked the door. And they sit there, and I'm like, hey, and I take the recorders out of my pocket. I turn on one, and I start to beep, and there's just a stunned silence, like a comic book or something, and, and then the head of human resources says, no, honey, that's not how we do things. And I said, well, no, that's exactly how we do things down at the newspaper. Because you see, I actually worked at the newspaper then, like freelancing full-time while going, to university and writing stories by deadline and taking pictures of them and attending city council meetings and getting front page stories about the very campus I was on in the newspaper over and over again when no one else could, not even their PR department, because everyone else thought the campus was a joke. So and I hate to say that because I went there with my heart thinking it was going to be the best experience ever because I agreed with the ideals they had written in their catalog, which is later someone pointed out to me was the only school in the world that did have those ideals printed in their catalog. So you could say that for it. But anyway, so there I am with them. And, and they're just looking at. I said, well, no. And I think, the thing about the newspaper sort of slowed them down a little too because I did write for a major metropolitan newspaper. So now they're sort of looking, and he says, well, wait a minute. If you're recording this, then are you going to have a recording and we're not? I said, no, here, I'll give you the tape from this one, and I'll keep the digital recording for myself. And so now the dean is starting to look a little red, you see, but he says, well, that's just not how it's done. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to turn that off. I said, well, if everything we're going to say here is completely and totally legitimate, then why in the world does this tape recorder need to be turned off? Mm-hmm. And they stopped then for another moment, and they looked at each other, and you see they couldn't really say anything because it was clearly against every rule Res Life ever had in the world. You don't leave every one of your belongings strewn out through the hallway for 2 weeks while you go on summer vacation. So they couldn't do anything. So they said, I'm going to have to ask you to turn that off. I said, well, if I can't turn this off, then, I'm going to have to leave. And they just stared at me, and so I got up. I said, I assume you want me to leave, right? And he said, I guess so. So I picked them up. I didn't turn them off, and I backed out of the room and turned around with them still recording left, and behind me the door slammed shut. Boom! And I got back to my dorm room, I turned them off, and then kept them for like 6 months. So anyway, is in a little post cap here, after that, I got a little notice from Human Resources in my mailbox, my little on-campus mailbox, and opening it up, it said, We find that your complaints against, the head of of housing and the head of the dean of students have no merit. But on the other hand, I never heard again about George and his shit. And I graduated. Didn't get fined, and I never had anyone talk to me about it again. And just like that, whole story disappeared. Except that George, in his junior year, flunked out. They said he was dealing drugs out of some place somewhere he rented in Orange County, and that he was going nowhere.